Welcome to Wealth Coherence. I'm your host, Emily Bouchard, a social worker specializing in human development and fascinated by human potential. For over 20 years, I've been a coach to families with successful businesses and leaders with successful careers, and you may be surprised to learn that true wealth is about coherence, when our inner state of being aligns with how we live, give, lead, and love. In this series, we will explore an integrated model to flourish coherently, because wealth isn't what we have, it's who we are when we are fully aligned. Well, welcome to this edition of Wealth Coherence. I am so thrilled to get to introduce you all to one of my dearest friends and an amazing woman. She's like a force of nature. We'll see how many different topics we're able to squeeze into this short time. But this is Amber Mahood, and she's coming to us live from Zurich, Switzerland, where I got to spend some quality time with her last August when I went to do a presentation for a family office group there. And then in January, as part of my epic 60th birthday, I went and got to co-curate the House of Consciousness with Amber and with Ash Maraka. And they invited me to join them, and it was an extraordinary experience. We're going to talk a little bit about what the House of Consciousness is, and what it's going to be, because it's going to happen again this coming year. And it happens concurrently with the World Economic Forum in Davos. So Amber, welcome. Just so looking forward to talking to you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very, very happy to be here with you and to see your face in real time, not just a voice phone.
It's wonderful. Yeah. So before we launch into all these different topics I can't wait to dive into about, I'd love for you to share something about yourself that people wouldn't necessarily know by reading your bio that's in the show notes, because you have such a varied and fabulous background, and you are an expat from the States living in Zurich. And what would you like for the listeners to know about you that would be really important for them to be aware of?
I guess that I am a mother first and foremost. That's the job above all the jobs. That's the thread. Everything I know, I've learned from my daughter. She has helped me tap back into my childlike wonder, and that has led me to skipping in the forest a lot of the time as a way of not just, I go out and I go run and I hike and all of that, but I added skipping in a while back, and it transformed my life. And that's probably something people don't know.
Oh my gosh, I love that you chose to share that. Amber lives next to a gorgeous forest with a statue of an elephant in the middle of it, near in the water, and the children are climbing around it all the time. And then we actually did a forest bathing sort of program in the forest as a result of the work she's done in terms of somatic awareness and tapping into our true nature by being in nature. So maybe let's start there and maybe share a little bit about what being in nature in the forest has done for you. And then in terms of the work that you do with somatics, because I've got a chance to experience you in action with that too.
Absolutely. Thank you. I've always been in nature, and I run and I get exercise, but it was something that I was doing and it was happening around me. And it was only during COVID times in the quiet. And I guess that was when I had the courage to start skipping. My daughter was 4 back then. And so I'd go out into the forest, and then nobody was around. And I was like, oh, I can dance and I can skip and I can be playful. And it was in that kind of releasing of my conditioning that I started to really become aware of how alive the forest was, that I wasn't in a forest that was separate from me, but that the trees were breathing and living alongside of me. I guess around the same time, Zurich is situated on a lake. And so I'd always swam in the lake in summertime. But that same summer, I started meditating and really using the lake much more consciously. And then when summer was ending, I was like, what am I going to do? I just found this space for myself. And so I decided, along with a friend, to keep swimming until I just couldn't anymore when it got too cold. But then we found ourselves in December in the first snowstorm out there in the lake. And so I'd really used this polarity of the water and the lake and the forest that I live, when I put my bedroom window up in the morning, the first thing I'm looking at is the forest. Zurich itself, situated so much in nature, has been a huge part of my journey and the transformation of the last 6 years. I have my favorite tree. She gives me the unconditional love that nobody else in the world ever could. I visit her most days, and she gives me that whole thing of being strong and rooted even in storms. She may sway and blow around a little bit and get a little bit shook, but she's there. She's rooted. She's sturdy. And I can go back to her every day, and she is there. And her energy is always the same. and it's unconditional. And I've tried to learn a lot from that tree and from the forest around it and the ecosystem, that everything is interconnected. No part of that forest works by itself. And we humans are no different. I often feel that we are disconnected from self, which leaves us disconnected from others, which leaves us disconnected from the natural world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so well said. And it's interesting when you were describing the tree, I think so much about the essence of wealth coherence, right? Like when we're totally in alignment with our values, our purpose, our internal world is coherent with our external world. That's when life really has that quality of unconditional love and support coming from within as well as from without. And I love how you're in this city. I mean, Zurich is a vibrant city and it's a financial capital and there's so much happening. It's very busy and it's a real
Yeah.
cosmopolitan city. And then it also has the lake, which everything centers around, and then the forest and that reminder that we can tap in and tune into that, which really reminds us of how we are so connected and interconnected with the world, even as we're out there making things happen and doing things too. And I think that that's a wonderful way to think about how we can create our lives
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the doing and the being.
As I step into sort of a new leadership chapter of my life, I'm using that skill. It's not something that I did to heal or transform that then I leave behind. I still go into the forest every morning. I'm unapologetic about it. I could sit at my desk and work at strategy all day long, and it's not going to get me very far. If I go into nature and I turn everything else off and I start moving and I ground and I connect, the ideas and the answers to the problems that I'm trying to solve come to me much more naturally. And then I can come be at my and actually be efficient at what I'm doing.
It's like a walking meditation, right? It's connecting in. And when we get connected and we're in coherence, when our mind and our heart are totally coherent, and sounds like the forest really provides that for you, the access to kind of universal intelligence and creative ideas and kind of a knowing is much more available to us than when we hunker down and feel like we have to force or we get, really bogged down in things. So I think that that's a really good point. And it makes me think of, I think it was Gandhi. They said he had a really busy day ahead, like it was going to be really packed his folks with him were like, okay, so do we need to get started? He says, no, I need to meditate like 3 times more than I normally do. And it's like, wait, what? It's like, no, I need to be totally aligned and totally tuned in and tapped in. So that's wonderful. You can have that right
Yeah,
there.
I'm so fortunate, and that I have had the time and space to sort of consciously deconstruct my old life and reconstruct something that is more aligned, and then carry that forward. You also saw it in Davos. My energy was down and I didn't join anything for 3 days because I wanted to not exactly meditate, but basically what you just said, I now know when I need to preserve my energy. I'm very self-aware or self-responsible for the energy that I bring into a room. And if that means that I have to say no to things beforehand so that I can show up in certain situations the way I want to. I have learned that skill and it's taken nearly 50 years, but I'm
Yeah,
learning.
well, it looks good on you. That's great. I love that you said that. I think that, like, given that, let's talk a little bit about our time in Davos and maybe speak a little bit about what had you and Ash come up with and create the House of Consciousness and what your vision is for what you're going to be doing this next January.
Yeah, I think Ash and I came to it by meeting the year before in Davos. And as I introduced myself now here on this podcast as a mother, first and foremost, what should anybody know about me? The first day that I really embodied that or realized it was the day that Ash and I met when I was on a panel. And the team that I was working with, things were happening and the guys didn't show up. And spontaneously, as I looked out in the room, I didn't want to tie myself to a project I didn't know was going to take off. And so I got the microphone and I was like, hi, I'm Amber. I'm a mother. I wear many hats and I'm trying to see a better future for my daughter and the next generations. Once I said it, I was like, well, that's the most true thing I've ever said. And that sort of inspired Ash to then come up to me and be like, who are you? And so she, like you, came and stayed here and we spent the better part of last year daydreaming what it was that we felt was the missing piece. We met up in Italy at a family legacy retreat in late May of last year and kept pulling the threads. And then I met you. And then the threads started to come together. But it's really this idea of all of us who are doing the deep inner work, but come from traditional backgrounds. I think spirituality has kind of gone down this one path, but it's not about spirituality. At the end of the day, it's about legacy. It's about human flourishing. It's about embodied conscious leadership. It's about systems change. Those are the pillars of what we need to see. We talk about climate change and impact investing and all the different things. But if we're not actually leading from a different place internally, then the systems around us cannot change. And so I think that was the goal that we all brought forward with House of Consciousness, was how to create a convening. And there's so many amazing minds around me and friends like you and so many amazing people doing incredible work in this space and trying to find a home to congregate these people together so that we can multiply the efforts all together rather than doing it alone.
Yeah, there's something that happens when it stops being siloed,
Yeah.
and there's a really clear understanding of if you're incoherent internally with what's happening in the world and you're in reaction to it, and what you're doing to try and make change is coming from a reactive, negative, lower emotional state, it's not going to have the same kind of lasting impact or the transformational impact that you're wanting, as opposed to doing that inner work and like, okay, if I'm looking at externally at what needs to change in the world out here, what needs to change internally right here? And then when we come from that whole place internally, like the right connections show up, the right inspiration shows up. It's like there's this effortless effort that can happen, and there's that sense of flow. And that's really why I was so moved to join you all and help co-curate that experience, because this chance to have a day dedicated to talking about what is it that allows us to bring our best, fullest selves wholly to what's in front of us, and to build bridges so that there is a sense of we're all in this together. We're all on this planet together. We're all conscious beings. And the thing that really is extraordinary is when you recognize that we have a consciousness within us and within the world, and that's what's observing our lives. And the more we can really tap into that, and that awareness is where that transformation we're seeking can come from.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. And I think, a huge part of it, going back to the somatic work, is like, how do you not only consciously learn that or discuss that, but then actually integrate it and embody it? I'm the first one to admit I've been doing this, studying all of this and doing this work for the better part of the past decade. And I had a magical moment a couple months ago in the beginning of spring where I picked up a wish flower, a dandelion, and made my wish. And only after I made the wish did I realize it was the first time in my entire life that I didn't wish for something outside of myself. I wished to be the person who could receive the thing that I wanted. And in that moment, I realized, okay, actually, this work is integrated. This is embodied now. It was so unconscious in the moment. But the second it was done, I realized, whoa, that was a really profound shift.
And that awareness of the shift is so important too, because it's good to be like, oh, I used to be there and now I'm here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And
Oh.
you've had a lot of shifts. I think it'd be great to hear a little bit about your new leadership role that you're in. It's very exciting, and it brings together a number of things. It's so interesting to me when we are in this place of coherence, what comes to us, how
Yeah.
it's complete surprise. It's like, where did that come from? Totally out of the unknown. And then you recognize, oh, everything about what I've been doing up until now completely made me a vibrational match for this role. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about the role and how you see yourself having come to this and drawn it to you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's so exciting. So I was recently approached, or earlier right after House of Consciousness, really early March, I was approached about taking on the position of CEO at the Catherine Woodward Thomas LLC in the US. And Catherine Woodward Thomas was a New York Times bestselling author who wrote the books Calling in the One, Conscious Uncoupling, and What's True About You. And I have followed her work, particularly in conscious uncoupling over the years, and know who she is deeply and admire her and her work. And somebody approached me that she unfortunately was ill. She had cancer and she was looking for a CEO to come into the business. And, I'm human. I had imposter syndrome like this amazing woman. I mean, me. Um, but but it kind of continued. And then Catherine and I were finally meeting, and she sadly passed away many months before anyone expected in April from ovarian cancer. But after that, her brother, who's the trustee of the business, and the team continued the process and ultimately invited me to come steward her legacy. And, the deeper I went into the process, even though it was so much imposter syndrome at the beginning, or like, me, how could I? Looking back at the red thread, as you say, it makes sense. Like my own work over these years has been, my work and transformation has been around unbecoming, that we have to unbecome everything that we were told to be in order to become who we are. And the letting go of the old narratives, the limiting beliefs, all of that. We have to consciously construct our lives again to become who we are here to be. And then from that, in the conversations around motherhood and being a living ancestor, I started pulling the threads on legacy. And the earliest etymology of legacy is really to go on a journey together. So I started playing so much with legacy, and that became the thing that I care so much about, is how do we go on journeys together and how do we steward legacy? And then suddenly this opportunity appeared where in title, am I CEO of this company? Yes, but what does that really mean? I'm a legacy steward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to replace Catherine or to be her. But, I hadn't read until I was approached. I hadn't read her most recent book, What's True About You. And when I started reading it, I got the chills. I mean, it's a very concrete framework that people can use and carry forward into the world that, is trainable and teachable, and people can become certified coaches in this, modality. But at the end of the day, it's this idea that we have to let go of the past. Catherine, as a therapist, felt that people were stuck in the past for too long, and that we had to, at some point, just let go of that and become our future selves. And it was so beautifully aligned that the whole thing in the end wound up feeling much more like a calling than a job. How do we create true transformation? And also, this most recent work moved Catherine's work from relational consciousness, how to call in the one that you want to be with, how to consciously uncouple from a relationship, into a much broader collective framework, which is, I think, where I and my work sit more in the business world of how does this impact systems change and collective consciousness? How can we stop living from the old script and recreate a new map? Catherine herself writes in the book, just she uses the word be delusional, be almost delusional in how big you can dream.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just I've played with that word quite a bit. And when you think about this life that we're living is basically being an illusion, right? It's like some people talk about it being we're in a holographic universe, or, basically this idea that our thoughts, our beliefs create our reality, and we're in a collective consciousness that's created the reality we're in. So if we want to shift that and have a different cultural framework for how to have life look and be, it does need to happen internally in the mind. And that disillusion is basically saying, like removing ourselves from the current illusion and allowing ourselves to be delusional
Hmm.
allows us to look at, wow, what could a new illusion look like? If we actually have this say, what can we co-create together in a new way? And that's, I think, another reason why the House of Consciousness that's happening in concurrence with the World Economic Forum. I think that that's another thing that's so fascinating is like all these world leaders are coming together to convene about economics and money and the world and AI. And it's like, and who are we as human beings in relationship to all of this? And
Yeah,
that, yeah,
100%.
yeah.
For me, I think the first piece of all of this conscious deconstruction and unbecoming, or whatever you want to call this shedding process, I can pinpoint it to a moment all in that same time during COVID that I was talking about before. And my daughter asked me to make her pancakes on a Wednesday morning before school. And I was like, what are you talking about? Pancakes are for the weekend. I'm not going to make pancakes on a Wednesday before school. Get up. And then something above me floated out of my body and heard me and was like, you make healthy pancakes. They take you a couple minutes. This little kid's 4. People are dying all over the world. Like, who do you want to be remembered as? Where did that even come from? Like, it's not my opinion. Like was that my grandmother? Was that her grandmother? Like, where did that come from? It all happened so suddenly. I remember then, looking at her little sad face and being like, that was silly. Yeah, let's go upstairs and make pancakes. And we came running upstairs. She's like, Daddy, 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 Mommy's going to make pancakes. And I was like, what? Pancakes are for the weekend. Like, right? I mean, I just said the same thing, but like, why? But that was the entry point for me. But as soon as that little crack happened in such a silly way, it made me really actually start questioning everything else. Literally everything else of why do I believe that? Is it good for me? Like, and I actually started skipping myself. I spent probably a month or so. I couldn't sleep at night, and I would just journal on shame, on money, on different topics. And I would try to go back as far in the family history as I knew of why certain belief systems had been created the way that they had. And then I would skip myself and I would think, is this something that I want my daughter to hold on to? And some of them were, and some of them were not. And it was a great way of making peace with the past too. Opinions or belief systems that are different from my own, because it gave me a framework to not feel victimized or misunderstood by them. It was like, okay, well, this was a story that served and made people safe for a very long time. And that's wonderful. But I now am in a position in life to choose whether or not that's the story I want to continue.
Yeah. And is that what you mean when you mentioned earlier the concept of being a living ancestor?
But yes, of really taking very seriously what my choices and actions and belief system, how they're going to impact the next 7 generations.
That's so great. And it's that intentionality that really brings a whole quality to life in terms of like, what is this about? Like, who am I in this moment? And I love that you started out with this thought of, what do I want people to know about me? I'm a mother first and foremost. And then this moment of like this kind of knee jerk belief speaking you as a mother. And then you're like, wait, that's not how I want to be a mother. Like, where did that come from? I think that is so brilliant. And I love stories like that too, because the moment we bring good humor to questioning our beliefs and allowing ourselves to be like, wait, that's absurd. Or where did that come? Is that mine? It just helps to have those knots unravel a bit that keep us tied up inside or keep us like automatically relating to the world in a certain way, as opposed to who do I want to be and what are my intentions?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just that whole, I think individually and collectively, we need to realize that nobody else's map works for us. And the old maps aren't leading to the same places. The routes have changed. That's also what the cold water swimming over the years taught me. And why I stuck with it was because I realized in those moments of discomfort how to breathe and stay in my body and to stay with it and to get comfortable in the discomfort. Life is inherently uncomfortable.
The more we go into the unknown, the more uncomfortable it is. Like, we're totally wired for comfort and familiarity. And I love that. And I think the other thing too with it is we can have such resistance to something new or unknown or different or uncomfortable. And getting into the cold water every day is an amazing experience of moving through resistance. And you get to see how much energy gets wasted in the thinking as opposed to just doing it, right?
And being in the body and being in the breath and learning how to have the breath calm and save you. And then just the dopamine hit that comes afterward. You're like, oh my God, I did that.
I did it.
What a horrible thing do I need to address?
Yeah, it makes me think of that that I think it was Brian Tracy wrote the book Eat That Frog. And it's like whatever's like in front of you that's yours to do that you've been avoiding, it's like, do it now. Just do it. Like, stop thinking about it, stop avoiding it. And yeah, once you've done something that unbelievably uncomfortable and painful, And then you come out of it, it's like, I can do anything, right? Like there's a
Really, definitely, especially that first year, it was like, whoa.
yeah, I experienced that a lot with the horses. So living on a property with 9 horses and a miniature pony and interacting with them every day and really not being familiar with them, right? That they were my COVID journey. And you got in the cold water. I got around really large,
Animals.
unpredictable animals and it's had me really bring my best self forward in terms of who can I be today with them? How much more present can I be? How can I not go into anxiety or fear, like thinking and just be in this place of being present with them so that I'm awake and aware to what's happening in each moment as opposed to being in my head about what may or may not happen. So, yeah, it was wonderful to have something in our lives that really challenges us every day to move through resistance and be uncomfortable. I think that that's really wise. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all know that wherever the world is going, it's transforming right now. Nobody may know exactly how, but we are in a period of mass transformation and disruption, and getting comfortable in that rather than resisting it, and leaning into things with curiosity and compassion rather than binary thinking and partisanship, that we need to move into this kind of unconditional love, open, compassion, curious place, which takes being very uncomfortable a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the top skill set for the coming years is how to surrender to discomfort and how to stay in our bodies and how to learn to, yeah, really have that somatic awareness of like, "M- my head is telling me this, but is it true? Are these just racing thoughts or is this truth?" When I was doing my first somatic dance training a few years ago, something happened and I was in the forest and I had this idea that I was being burgled. And I was convinced of it. I went into a complete panic attack. But then I stopped and I was learning how to read my body and how to breathe and how to ground, and I really stopped and breathed into that and thought, no, that's not happening. That's ridiculous. This is just some old looped story in my head. My body's addicted to the chemical reaction of these stories, and then I react to them. There's nowhere in my body that this feels like this is truthful or resonant. I mean, before that, I probably would have run home in a panic attack, like, "Ugh," only to find the place was fine. But, how do we learn the skills to start differentiating between what's a story keeping us stuck and looped versus what is actually true?
Yeah, yeah, I think the Stoics really say a lot about this in terms of, like, the suffering that we create for ourselves is in our minds, right? And there's so much unnecessary suffering that we create for ourselves, and we're in a lot longer than we need to be, than if we actually had the experience that we're worried is gonna happen, right? Like, it's the mind having that awareness to quiet the mind when it starts to do that and catching it sooner so it doesn't take us to panic attack,
Mhm.
and making that the goal is how do I have that inner will and strength to not get taken by a thought and seeing how far down the rabbit hole it's going to take me, right? It's wonderful talking with you. It's so refreshing because of how vulnerable and real and human you are. And you share these stories in such a powerful way that's like everybody experiences these things. Like, I mean, I just get the most absurd thoughts, like, when I'm driving, and part of me is just like, "Where did that come from?" I like David R. Hawkins' work, and I was listening to a lecture of his, and he said, if those thoughts come in, it's really important to cancel them, and you can say something to the effect of, "Yeah, I used to be a person who thought that way, but no, I know that I am at the effect of my thoughts, and I choose not to think that way anymore," and it's like, phew, it's like being that authority with ourselves, right? Like that kind of running wild child that's like, demanding whatever it's demanding of attention. It's like, no, we're gonna, focus here on how we're gonna have a really happy day and not going down that direction. So I
And I
love
love
that. For
his
sharing that.
work. All in that same time of the pancake scenario and the forest and the lake, I was reading his book, Letting Go, for the first time.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so great.
It's so funny because when I was talking about doing that sort of what I'll call shadow work now, of going back through the generations and making some conscious choices, I had been reading his book and I was maybe getting a little bit spiritual bypassy, if I'm being perfectly honest with myself, of like, oh, I'm up here in these high vibrations and you have all this anger and you're down here. And then I was doing this moon ceremony and I remember praying up to the moon and being like, oh, I want to shine so bright like you. And the moon spoke back to me and was like, I'm only beautiful because of the darkness. And then I totally realized that I'd missed the point of his book the first time I had read it. And that I had all of those things inside of myself too. And that I was trying to elevate above them and dismiss other people for their negative vibrational states when I was passing my own. And that was what led to what I mentioned before about going through all this kind of legacy journaling of, oh, well, wait, all of that lives in me too. And I'm trying to resist it. How do I surrender to it and embrace it and integrate it and understand it's a part of me, but then use it for good rather than destruction?
Yeah, it's meeting our thinking and beliefs with understanding, compassion, that unconditional love you've spoken to, like the tree's energy. It's like, yeah, of course you would have thought this way. Of course you would think this way. And you can let it go. Like it doesn't serve, if it doesn't serve, you can let it go. And
Absolutely.
it's that giving yourself grace, giving yourself permission. And you're making me think of one of my favorite books that I don't often mention, but I'm going to mention it here, which is, I think it's called Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing. And
Okay.
it's by somebody who wrote this with the pseudonym of Jed McKenna. And it's so good because it's all about what you just described, which is, he calls it spiritual autolysis. And you just basically unravel every belief that you have built your life on and really get that none of them are true. And
Okay.
doing that deep work to do that.
I now need to read it.
Oh, you wrote it. You've already like, and he's very irreverent and funny, and it's a fun read, but it's also waking people up to the fact that spiritual enlightenment is not this kind of bypass journey where everything's all roses and like it's not whatever it's cut out to be in terms of your mind. So yeah, Jed McKenna is the author, but I really like and this is interesting about the discomfort that you said, the image of, and you have a daughter, right? Playing with Legos, right? And constructing something really beautiful with the Lego set, right? And like all the different work that goes into that. And, I had siblings. And so like my brother might come and like wreck this Lego thing and I just like destroy it. And I'm like sitting on the floor crying because all of my Lego pieces are all around me. And this construct that I had really enjoyed was now just destroyed and all around me. But when we get it that, oh, it's just a construct. And what's another construct I could live in? What's another belief system that could be even more powerful? And I have volition. I get to decide where and how these pieces get to be placed going forward. And then instead of it being a victim of what's happened, then it's like, oh, I get to dismantle this old thing. And what was the word you used? I really liked it. Like, it's not, is it disassembling? What did you say? Like
Deconstruction.
conscious deconstruction. Yeah. So it's like, okay, somebody else came and deconstructed it, but I can like then look at, oh, what do I want to reconstruct as opposed to, how do I make it exactly like what it was before? It's like, no, there's this infinite possibilities and spaciousness,
The expansion.
opportunity. Yes. Yeah. And that's where that coherence really helps us access all of that.
Yeah. And also just somatic awareness to start becoming more aware of when we're contracting and when we're expanding, what energies, what decisions, what choices, and learning that discipline of actually feeling into our bodies of, is this expansive? Is this contractive? Am I saying yes when I really mean no and everybody can feel it around me and therefore it's going to be a miserable experience? Or, and going back to David Hawkins, it's his emotional scale is what Sada Simone, who taught my somatic dance therapy, use. So you've done the class with me, and every one of the moves is associated with one of the emotions on the emotional scale. And then you build the classes around where you want to take people on the emotional scale.
That is phenomenal. And yeah, your class was so much fun and really transformational in the course of it. It's interesting because you talked a lot about different actions you took and different behaviors you did when you became aware. And it really speaks to that demarcation line that he talks about, which is when you move from like kind of the lower vibration that keeps us really stuck and not with a lot of options and possibility to just a much higher state, and it's courage. And it really struck me. It wasn't love. Love's, I think, at a different
Yeah.
level above it, but it's
Amazing.
courage. It's that willingness to admit to ourselves, wait, I just said something really awful to my daughter that I don't agree with. Like just catching it, right? And having the courage to go back and say, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I don't mean that. Let's go have pancakes. It's like the courage to look at ourselves honestly, to look at what isn't going in our lives the way we want, and the courage to say, how do I look at this differently? How do I create something newly? And you really have embodied that on so many levels, Amber. And, yes, I've been so uh, graced to witness some of your transformational journey and how you brought your best self to your conscious uncoupling, and it was not an easy process. And what you've created for you and your daughter and her father, it's really beautiful.
It's always a journey. It's a journey. And thank you so much for all the love and support that you've brought to us. And yeah, it is the courage. I don't always do the full dance classes, but every day out in the forest, I do some of the moves, and I do courage every single day.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love the idea of dancing and bringing the somatic experience to it, getting out of our heads,
Yeah,
getting
well,
into our bodies, and really embodying what is courage.
dramatic storytelling. How do we actually, from our body, drop the old story and make space for something new?
What's one of your favorite songs you like to use for courage? I'd love to leave with that so that people can tap into that if they want to.
There's a song called Unstoppable. I think it's by Sia, but it's
Oh,
called
yeah. Oh, yeah, I just got chills. That is a great song for courage. Yeah.
Try Everything by Shakira.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah, those are super fun.
Those are two
Yeah.
very good ones for that. But it goes with, a lot of songs.
Well,
Sometimes
yeah, I mean,
totally different vibes than that.
yeah, different genres, different things. Yeah, for sure. That's wonderful. Thank you. It's always good to hear what
But those are
different people use. Yeah, I love getting different
two that
ideas.
I like for getting empowered, getting the courage.
Mhm. Yeah, I like, Katy Perry's, Firework. That's a
A
fun
good one.
one. And then I really like there's a remix of, uh, Robbie, I can't remember his last name, but it's I Love My Life.
Yeah, I listen to that so often now. Ever since when you were here, we played it.
We danced and played that, yeah.
I use that a lot now. I mean,
Oh,
not
that's great.
so much for the courage, but just in general.
Yeah, once you get over that courage line when you're feeling really yeah.
Exactly. That it's like, I
Oh,
find
yeah,
myself listening to that and singing to that very often these days.
that's great.
But that was
Wonderful.
definitely an Emily addition into my playlist.
Oh my gosh, this is so great to connect with you and learn just a little bit about some of the wonderful things that you're up to and how you really bring wealth coherence to your life and the life of your daughter. And it's wonderful to get to share that with the listeners. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I hope that you join us in Davos again. And thank you for all the shares and space you've given to me on my journey and the wisdom that you brought and love you brought into my life
Oh,
and our household.
it's a total blessing. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing what's ahead for both of us. And I
Yes.
want to come see you and your horses desperately.
Oh, you are both welcome for sure. I'd love to have you and your daughter. That'd be amazing. And I'll just say, if you want to get in touch with Amber, she's got so many different hats. We're going to have multiple links to share with you all. If you're interested in the House of Consciousness and how to get involved, if you want to speak or if you want to attend, this a great option and opportunity to really have what you want to share be on a world stage. And then also your other work that you're doing. It's wonderful, and how to get in touch with you on LinkedIn. And we didn't even talk about your incredible work with sustainable fashion and like this, the degree of consciousness that Amber brings to the world is extraordinary. We almost need to have another episode. So thank you so much. And definitely looking forward to learning more about what's going to be happening in Davos, Switzerland in January. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Wealth Coherence. If it resonated, I'd love for you to share it or leave a review. This will help others find their way to this space. And if you're ready to keep exploring what it means to live, lead, and give from a place of coherence, head to emilybouchard.com to stay connected. Until next time, be well internally and allow your external life to be the fullest expression of who you truly are.